for spring break and all that. Today we're just gonna go over the agenda. We have Brandon Farzad? Okay, sorry, look. He's a candidate for Mayor of Newark here to talk to us. We're gonna talk a little about the ordinance. We're gonna get an update from Shannon and Megan about City of Newark Council, and we are going to have a quick update from Kevin as vice president. So if we could all welcome up Brandon, he's gonna talk to us a little bit.
Okay. How's it going, everybody? All right. So there's a few things that you guys are probably interested in. I guess what that is. So, how many of you feel strongly one way or another about the unruly social gathering ordinance? How many of you are registered to vote in Newark? Probably. So, that is why I'm here. I want to get you all to understand just how important it is. I know I'm preaching to the choir, how important it is for you to register to vote in this city. Now, I realize it's too late for this election, but you need to understand that if you want your voice to be heard, that's the only way to do it. To go out and vote. And for those of you who are registered to vote in Newark, now I'm speaking to you. Okay, so a little bit about me. I grew up in Binghamton, New York. That's like a very boring town in upstate New York. That's just, Binghamton is like if Elkton was even worse than it is now, that's Binghamton. So I'm a first generation American. My dad's from Iran. He left during the revolution in 1979. My mom is from Naples, Italy, and she left in the 70s as well. So I was basically raised Italian. I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. My whole Italian family moved to America, so I mean, some good pasta sauce. Okay. History. Grew up in Binghamton. Ended up going to Penn State for my undergrad. Got undergrad in aerospace engineering while I was there. I ran on the track team. I was not that great on that level, but I was pretty good in high school. Then I ended up leaving the track team. I started the club track team. I was the founder and president of the Penn State club track team. It's now the biggest and best club track team in the nation. Multiple-time national champions, and they've even beat some Division I schools, their actual varsity team. So I'm really proud of that. From there, did 2 internships at NASA. Then I ended up going to Georgia Tech, got my master's in aerospace engineering. From there, I came here. And the reason I came here is because I love the feel of a college town. And the ultimate college town in my book is Penn State, because that's where I did my undergrad. And I look to them, for inspiration all the time, because that's a college town that, in my opinion, they're doing it right. The citizens are happy, the students are happy, everybody's happy. I love that place. And so I knew that this area would kind of have that vibe. To me, it's like a little mini Penn State, a little mini state college. There's a lot more jobs over here. So right now I work down the road at Northrop Grumman, which used to be Orbital ATK, which used to be ATK. None of that matters. All you need to know is we make rockets, and it's really super cool. And we just had the Orion attitude control motor test today, which went successfully. So yes, it's going to the moon, Mars, and beyond. It's pretty cool. So while I was here, my work at Northrop Grumman was getting kind of boring, so I wanted to get another degree. I ended up enrolling at UD and been getting my MBA. Actually, my last class ever is right after this. I'm going to my final class, and then I'm done. Then I get a PhD, but that doesn't matter. So, okay. I've done a lot of coaching in my life. I coached the club track team here for 2 years. And then that's basically my history. And so I've been watching the Newark government, and it's been irritating me. And, as as a government, I think each and every one of you understands that feeling of frustration when you see someone else doing a job that you know you could do a better job. And you just, after a while, you just can't sit on the sidelines anymore. You got to get in there. And so I know a lot of people that work at the Delaware State House of Representatives office, and I had some connections, and they were telling me, like, man, you got to run for mayor. You know, there's no one legitimate. There's this kid from UD running, and that's about it. I was like, I'm in. I'm doing it. My grandfather was a mayor in Iran, in a city with like 1 million people, so it kind of runs the family. So I decided to start running. The day after, Jerry Clifton decided to run too, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna be a problem because he's. Do you guys know who Jerry Clifton is? Okay, this is. He's been on city council for 19 years, and he is really good at that. But he's 68 years old, and he's running for mayor in this city, and that's a problem. That's a problem because he's never gone to college, and he lives in a senior community. Does that sound like Newark to you? No, doesn't sound like it to me either. And so the problem is, I'm going to throw out some statistics. Of the registered voters in Newark, counting all the students, counting everyone, there are about 15,000 registered voters. About 8,000 of them, or 6,500 of them, are 65 and older, and 91% of them voted in the last mayor election. That is insane. I'm amazed that they got numbers that high. 91%. Who can guess what that number is for under the age of 60? What do you think? Close. It was 48%. Under the age of 25, it was closer to 30. Yeah. So, of the 5,000 or so people that actually voted in the last mayor election, how many do you think were students? What do you think?
Maybe 100.
What do you think?
I feel like probably less than 10%.
Way lower. Keep going. Lower than that. What do you think?
1%.
It was 10 people. 10 people. Now, I just got word from the city secretary that we had a bunch of people registered to vote in the last week. She said it was an influx of students. Who can guess how many people just registered to vote? How many students? 5. Close. What do you think? 10. 25. All that hustle, all that stress, and only 25 of you registered to vote. That's pretty bad. You guys are the core. You guys are the ones that are supposed to be pushing it. And if your numbers aren't 100%, then that's a problem. So enough bitching at you. Let me get down to what we're really here to talk about. The unruly social gathering ordinance, right? That's what's on everyone's mind. You want to know where I stand? I own a house in town, but I moved here because I like a college town. I throw parties all the time. I throw a party every year called Sodfest. Last name's Barzad. It's pretty awesome. But we only let people in who are over 21. I tell all my neighbors a month ahead of time. I invite all of them. None of them show up, but I just do it to tell them, that's what's happening. I have a bunch of students show up. I have a bunch of athletes show up, people from work, whatever. It's great. My point is that obviously I like having fun and I like partying. But I live in a neighborhood with a professor next door, a retired professor across the street, another retired guy cat a corner from me, and a foreign exchange rental next to me. And so I gotta be cognizant of the fact that okay, these people are bed early. I don't want to disrupt their day no more than I want them to disrupt my day. You don't really think about it because they don't really disrupt you that much because they go to bed early. You never hear about it. But I'm always careful about that kind of thing. And I think the citizens of the town they had enough, and they felt like they weren't being listened to. And so they kind of went a little crazy with the rule, and they went a little far. And when they were talking about it over the past 2 months, no students were showing up. No one was really voicing their opinion. It was a very small group of students. And then the day of the vote, it's like 600 people tuned in. And I mean, it's like not supporting your friend when they got arrested, but then showing up to the sentencing hearing like you're going to change someone's mind. It's not going to happen. So it was way too little, way too late. And people can voice their opinions that late in the game, but the decision's pretty much already been made. Everyone's already read, what they are voting on. It's basically just a formality at that point. So, in the form that it was presented, I would not have voted for it, but there is a form of it that I would have supported, which is what I said in the debate last night. The thing is, you got some people on council that no matter what, you got to be political about it. You can't just like say, I'm against this, because you got a bunch of other people that are very much for it, and you're just going to fight all day. So it's all about compromise. If everyone walks out angry, then you know you did a good job, right? Because you compromise. If anyone walks out extremely happy, then they did a great job and you did a horrible job. But there was no compromise. They basically got exactly what they were asking for. If I'm mayor, there's a couple things I want to change. First of all, I'm going to adjust that ordinance. We'll never get rid of it. I hope you know that. It's never going away, which sucks, but it can be modified. And I spoke with the police chief this morning, and he agrees that it needs some work, but basically they had to pass something, and that was it. It needs a little bit of tweaking, and that can be done, and that's what I want to do when I become mayor. And another thing I want to do is, now that they've kind of tied your hands as students and prevented you from really letting loose in the town, they've prevented you from releasing yourself into the only outlet that you had. And so, where I come from at Penn State, there's not really that many house parties. I know you've probably seen videos and you think it's insane, but when you consider 50,000 people, there's really not that many. All the fun is on basically the equivalent of Main Street. It's at all the bars and clubs and stuff. And I'm going to propose to change some of the legislation that's are you guys aware with what's the situation on Main Street? Ever wonder why there's no dance clubs or anything like that, or extremely loud music in more than 2 bars? It's because there are ordinances preventing new businesses from having dance floors, having loud music, or anything like that. So that's one thing I want to change, and I have another member of council that I'm close friends with, and he wants to change it. And another guy who's running Horning, he wants to change it too. So now we got 3 of us who want to change that rule. Now you need 4 to do anything. However, the mayor can put anything on the agenda that they want. They're the only one in council that can put whatever they want on the agenda. So I could keep bringing this up. Every month I'll bring a new version until something goes. I think they'll probably support it. If we get 3 people on my side, we can kind of peer pressure the rest of them. They'll kind of see the tide's coming. But that's what I want to do. So that's pretty much all I got. You guys got any questions?
I just kind of wanted to say thank you so much for coming also. Very much appreciate it. In regards to registration, one of the major reasons is that the majority of students at UD are out of state.
No, I know.
And
what the
so-
reason is, but it's still unfortunate.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, I forget where Megan is. There she is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the last that we knew about it, the language of the bill was nothing like what it was until the first reading, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah. The thing about the registration is a lot of people's, it's usually their health insurance possibly that's the biggest concern. I looked into it for me personally. That was the case, that I couldn't change my voting registration if I want to stay on my parents' health insurance. But in regards to the legislation, I mean, I'm sure you were paying attention when you said small number of students. It was pretty much me until the second reading.
You and 9 friends.
Yeah. But one of the things was that the legislation was very different until it got to that first reading. You can't comment on to the first reading. Multiple council members have signaled to me that's probably going to change after I kind of.
That is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
You can meet with anyone on council. You can meet with any 2 people on council at the same time. It's totally legal, totally kosher. They just won't do it because they don't want to.
I
That's
think
the
that they're
truth.
gonna change the rule now, so I think it's kind of like a passe thing, because enough of them have said it. And then, generally, I think, the biggest issue here was about the difference in influence that landlords had and we had. I understand why maybe residents, in terms of, got a little bit more voice, but the landlords were able to decrease the effectiveness of this legislation and go against the police's wishes simply because of the power and money they have.
And you know what's crazy?
In our city.
On that night, the most important ordinance that was voted on was not the unruly social gathering. It wasn't, by a long shot. It was what followed, where they're eliminating the possibility of, allowing landowners to vote more than once. That was pretty big. But everyone was gone by the time that came up to the plate. Everyone left.
Yeah, I'm not totally up on that, but I think one thing I generally have an issue with is the city's comprehensive development plan is ridiculous, and that translates into how they deal with developers and the student housing crisis, the affordability of Main Street. All of these issues are tied back to we have a council that lets developers do whatever the heck they want. And do you have any concrete plans on how, at some point, if you were on council, you'd have to play hardball with landlords, you'd have to play hardball with the university administration. Do you have any
Okay, so
ideas?
let me tell you, if I don't win this time, I'm running for council, which is coming up next year, District 3. And then I'm going to run for mayor again and again and again. So I get it. I don't care how long it takes. I will be mayor. That being said, the construction plans, the reason it is the way it is because the university doesn't really let the city in on what it's doing early enough in advance for the city to really make a good plan. So what happens is, and the reason is because there's some broke bridges there, right? Because you have a 68-year-old dude who never even went to UD. You got a bunch of other people. You got 2 alumni on council. I'm not saying it's all got to be alumni, but they should at least have been students at one point in their life, So you got some burnt bridges there. The university doesn't want to share information with the city, and what happens is the university tells the city with 6 months to go, oh, by the way, we're eliminating 2,000 beds. Good luck. And the city just has to deal with it. And so what the city is doing is they're going, oh God, okay, how do we fix this problem? Because they know that students are going to be moving into the neighborhoods. They don't want that, right? And you don't want that. You don't want to be living next to some dude who, is going to be watching you through his window every day when you walk in the house, right? You don't want that. They don't want that. So they go, okay, Lane, what do you got? We'll do whatever it takes. And so it gives the real estate developers a lot of power because they know, they can pretty much not do whatever they want, but they know that now they have the ability to really, let the line loose and just start building. The city's doing it because they are put in a difficult situation. And I think given the circumstances, that actually is the best choice. However, if we could rekindle some of those relationships with the university and kind of nourish it and get ahead of these plans, far enough in advance, where we could actually put a good plan together, then things like that wouldn't happen. But that's why you have situations like that. So for me, the first thing I would do is try to rebuild those bridges. I'm going to be an alum. I think that's a pretty good in. I know a bunch of people at the school. We got 2 more alum on council. We got Jason, who's awesome, and we got Horning, who's pretty cool. And they all want to work with the school. I'm not going to name names, but I know who doesn't get along with the university, and it's looking good right now. So fingers crossed.
So hey, can I ask 2 questions?
Pardon me?
If it's okay, can I ask 2 questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
My first question is kind of regarding the ordinance. I consider myself to be someone who does keep up kind of with local politics. Didn't really know about it, as you said, till it was too late. And I think once it passed, that was the most mobilized I've ever seen our campus become, our students, ever. And I've only been here 2 years, so it's not a long time, but I think that there's a huge issue where there isn't a lot of communication between, it's hard to tell, even for us, it's hard to say to our whole campus, hey, this is an issue we should all know about. And we're students, and we're the student government, I think it's hard for us. So I'm sure, so much harder for, Newark politicians to engage with our student body.
Okay, so let me tackle that one.
Yeah.
Normally, I would say it's not your job to come to me; it's my job to come to you. But in this case, I have representatives, so it's our job to speak. And when I'm mayor, I would like to do this regularly, maybe every few months. I can come in here, tell you guys what's going on. Now you know. On with our. I think it would be a good idea if you guys had a few more people show up to council meetings, even if you have no stake in it. It really looks bad when I see only 2 students at city council every 2 weeks, the same couple students. And then all of a sudden parties are on the line and there's hundreds like busting the doors down, thinking that their voice matters, thinking that it looks good. No, I'm representing myself. No, it actually looks worse. It looks really bad. So we need people to regularly go. And I know it's boring and I know that the meetings go for like 6 hours, but that's the real world. If you want to do this type of work in the real world, that's what it is. 99% of the time, you're going to be looking at things that you personally don't have a stake in. But you have to really think about what it's like to be that person. You got to put yourself in their shoes. You have to really use your empathy and compassion. It's kind of a trained skill. Well, I think women are probably better at it than I have to work really hard to understand that. But it's a trained skill, and it's good if you show up on a regular basis. I mean, if we had like 10 students in there, how awesome would that look? Right? I mean, I see you there from time to time, right? You're there pretty much every time.
Yep, that's what I do.
Yeah. So it's you and
Shan.
oh yeah, okay, that's fine. I always sit in
I
the
have
front,
one of
so I
those
don't know.
faces.
That too. So yeah, what if 10 students came every time there was a whole chunk of the room just students? I mean, that would look awesome. So I would encourage you guys to do that. So what was your next question?
This doesn't really have to do with like UD per se, but because you are running for mayor, there's something I kind of wanted to ask you about. Something that I've been like researching and working on for the last couple of years is understanding the issue of human trafficking in the nation, and then also in Delaware as well. I'm not sure if you're aware, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a human trafficking bust about a mile from here in New York. And there's tons of ads of people in women in UD gear who are, look to me, it's done under the lens of prostitution, but it's to me very clear that it's human trafficking. And it is an issue that is prevalent in Newark and in every single state in this state. And I wanted to ask if you were, one, aware of it, if two, some ideas you might have about combating that.
I wasn't aware of that. But I have one of my best friends, his name's Billy Mitchell, and he owns a jean company called Billy and Jeans. And 30% of all their profits goes to battling human trafficking. And so yeah, he's a great guy. And he's really good at the guitar. So he does all his own fundraising and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge problem all over the world. It's insane, especially Southeast Asia. It's really bad. And it's like legal. You know what I mean? Like it's. But I didn't know that it was going on in Newark, and if it's at our doorstep, the mayor is always working one-on-one with city manager, police chief. These are the types of things that I can talk to the chief about and be like, hey, we gotta tackle this problem.
Yeah.
So
I've done 4 years of compiled research. I would be more than happy to sit down and educate you on anything.
yeah, sure. Shoot me an email.
Absolutely.
You know my email?
I will ask after.
All right. Any more questions?
So I heard that in the past, UD in the city of Newark has had some sort of town gown, I think it was called, where students, faculty, and city council members, and I think residents can regularly communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to kind of reestablish something similar?
I did, but Polly beat me to it. So she reestablished the Newark Partnership, which used to be the Downtown Newark Partnership. And it was basically a nonprofit organization.
It was a city organization. It's now a nonprofit.
Thank you. So now I think there's more people who are involved. And I think that if we use it the right way, it can serve the same purpose as a town and gown. And if it doesn't, then yeah, it's a town and gown. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to fix this. Whatever it takes. I mean, we need that. If I gotta start showing up here, if I gotta talk to interfraternity council on a weekly basis, whatever it takes. I can tell you Jerry's not gonna do that. He'll say he's gonna do that. He's not gonna do that. All right, any more questions? All right, one more thing. I know you have a student running, okay? Kassan, great guy. I like him. Got a lot of energy. I'm telling you right now, for the love of God, don't vote for him. If you want what I said to happen, me and him want the exact same thing, except he has no chance of winning. If every single registered student voter votes, he will still lose by a landslide. You need to vote for me if you want these things to happen. It's right now, everyone I talk to says I'm a second to Jerry, pretty distant second, but it can happen. And so I'm going to be pushing real hard the next few weeks, but I need every student vote I can get. I need every vote under the age of 50 that I can get, because those 65 and older, over 90% of them vote. So we got a lot of work to do. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for Brandon for coming in. Definitely an interesting conversation. So we're just gonna move on with our next item on the agenda. Kevin, if you wanna give your quick update.
This one will not be nearly as long, so do not worry. One thing that I would really love to start off by talking about, is if you're not gonna be at Senate meetings,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Send a proxy vote. We actually ran into an issue last year where we thought we had a vote that went, and we didn't meet quorum because not enough people made it. If you're not showing up, or if you're not going to be here and you're not sending a proxy vote, that's an absence. There's just no way around it unless some crazy circumstances happen. But
Yeah, if you email because you are sick or something related to that and you don't have time to submit a proxy, that's still an excuse absence. But if you have like a dinner or an event for school or an interview and something that you knew about far in advance, you have time to send a proxy vote in.
So there's a scanner in the basement library.
Yeah,
If
and
you're
you can
wondering.
type it in too. I make it a Word document so that you can edit it too. I don't care if it's submitted, it's just online. E-signature is fine.
And I know, so elections are coming up. We're going to have our interest meetings next week. We're going to hold the debate about kind of what we think.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, April.
I don't know, I mean the debate about kind of rules for parties, or kind of election rules.
And then my campaign debate.
Oh, no, sorry. So we're going to kind of, at the end of today's Senate, discuss about kind of what the rules are currently and if we think as a body, like things should be adjusted a bit. So we're definitely open to suggestions and we can talk about that afterwards. I did want to bring up a non-binding resolution. Ariba Khan, who was a senator, now committee member, and she's working from DC. She's been super busy and doing really incredible stuff. But she reached out to me Friday morning about the event that happened in New Zealand. And we've been talking quite a bit, and I know the Muslim Student Association is hoping to hold some kind of a vigil within the next couple of days, which was the reason for initial hold off. But I kind of want to read something ahead of you guys and kind of just take a unanimous vote of consent, just to kind of confirm that we're here for all UD students, and that we're loving and accepting and any kind of hate. And I'm sure people in this room have seen any kind of religious, racial, any kind of hate before, and we all know that that's not UD values. That's not what we stand for as a body, as a university. And so I figured with Ariba and with Isha's help, we drafted this, and I'll read it now. So, whereas specified in Article 1 of the Constitution, it is the duty of the Student Government Association to enhance student experience by actively advocating on behalf of students' rights. And whereas in the spring of 2012, SGA co-wrote and endorsed the university's Blue Hen Values Statement. And whereas the openness clause of the Blue Hen Values Statement reads, we believe that diversity is not enough. Diversity is acknowledging that differences exist. Openness means that we are accepting of learning from and engaging with all members of our community. And whereas in the past several years, there have been numerous anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic, anti-Hindu, and other forms of anti-religious hatred committed around the world, in the United States, and even at UD. Therefore, be it resolved that the Student Government Association denounces all forms of violence and hate towards individuals of any religious background, specifically those of the background, specifically concerning the New Zealand and Pittsburgh events of this past year, and be it further resolved that the Student Government Association stands to protect and serve all UD students in the pursuit of religious freedom guaranteed to them both by the University of Delaware and the United States Constitution. So if we get a vote of unanimous consent, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All against, no? Excellent, thank you. And that will be going out later this evening. Another piece of kind of saddening news at the university, a sophomore student, Alex, Sarpone, thank you, who was an active member of UDENS and really worked hard, really committed to kind of helping children with cancer. Unfortunately, this week he passed away, and it's a real shame because he really looked and worked to help kids with cancer like he had had, and unfortunately, he was not able to kind of make it through this second bout with cancer. And I know all of our thoughts and prayers are with his family. And the one big thing is that his family really, really wanted students to engage with UDENS, to vote or to donate, to be positive, and to really be there for a lot of the kids who are still struggling and who really need that help. So that's about it. Thank you. Oh, sorry. And I will say, the university is, thank you to the moves done by John Cohill and Nick. The university is being far more proactive in getting that information out. And then we're also going to be posting Alex's in memoriam this evening, which is a daily article.
So now we're gonna hear from Shannon, about some more.
Brendan kind of stole all mine.
So for those of you that are registered to vote in Newark, the elections are on April 9th, and the districts up for election are, well, obviously the mayor, and also districts 1 and 2. If you need help knowing which district you're in, more than happy to point you in the right directions on where that is and where you can go to vote for that. And also on April 29th, there will be an off-campus housing fair in Perkins. Not totally sure what that entails, but I'm assuming that there'll be some information on places off-campus for one to housing for next year. Yeah, that's all I got. And the social ordinance, of course.
Another thing is that the city is having a special meeting on the student housing problem, I guess you'd want to say, how it's affecting the city. That's on March 27th. I don't remember the time off the top of my head, but I'll definitely send that information along, just kind of update you on the Spark Notes version of what happened of the ordinance. When the residents originally started lobbying for it, it was about lowering the number of people required for a special event permit from 150 to 50. And I spoke during that meeting. I said, come talk to us. I put myself on an email list, just kind of trying to get some engagement there. And then it went back out, and the police brought back a proposal about kind of modeled. It was pretty much like copy and paste, like a Towson ordinance with a little bit of changes. The Towson University ordinance penalized landlords and student organizers for holding unruly social gatherings. Many of the qualifications for an unruly social gathering are the same. That's where they got them from. That 4 people, the readily available alcohol, all those aspects of it. During that meeting, that was actually me. I actually had the flu, but I watched it. And I emailed them afterwards to kind of like see what was up, and their conversation. I was encouraged by the council pushed back against the ordinance quite a bit and said that they had a lot of concerns. Of course, they mentioned landlords 27 times and students once in terms of whose concerns they're worried about. But it was still their explicit instructions at the end of that meeting were to go do stakeholder engagement. And to my knowledge, the city made a meeting with organized a meeting with landlords, and then therefore dropped all provisions relating to landlords, and then raised the penalties on students and moved ahead. So the police spoke to me several times during this. I know, that wasn't their hope. They say they still hope there will be something about landlords coming down the pipe in future. And obviously I spoke against the ordinance. Other students spoke against the ordinance. A lot of my complaints were about both stakeholder engagement and kind of the rollout. I saw a lot of examples of inaccurate information being spread around. Not that this ordinance is good, but a lot of people saying that it did things it didn't do, which that doesn't help anyone to not be at least factually accurate. Since then, multiple council members have reached out to me, both with apologies, steps forward. We're really talking about what we can maybe do in the future to at least strengthen communication and the rollout and community police relationships. And so there's a lot of the council people are really focused on the campaign. But they're, still emailing back and forth. I'm actually about to just head out. I'm about to go meet with some. I'm on the organizing board for the Newark partnership, but there are some council members and city hall that, and I expect to have some conversations with them in regards to that tonight. Transitioning away from that unpleasant topic, the Newark partnership will be launching formally with staff and a full executive board this summer, and that will be we will have a student on the board of directors there, which is a really exciting opportunity. Their name is listed right alongside the president of the university or the designee and, the mayor. And so that's a cool opportunity, and we'll be figuring out what we're going to do with that. But also explicitly, I've had meetings with the University Civic Engagement Initiative that's currently staffing it and city council members about ways that we can make it more inclusive to students. Again, the Newark Partnership is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that brings together business leaders, university leaders, residents, students, and people from the nonprofit sector to talk about issues. Things that have come up are rental prices on Main Street and, the lack of options for activities on Main Street as well. Not just, it's all restaurants. We want big bars. They want things other than just restaurants and, things like that nature. So hopefully I'll be bringing more stuff forward to you guys, the results of these conversations. But I do want to say that multiple council members have said that, think mistakes were made during this ordinance process, and they are aware and listening a little bit too. I think they saw that petition, they saw that reaction. They were like, shoot, maybe this wasn't the way to do it, which is what we've been saying all along. So definitely people's engagement helped in terms of they paused, reached out to us and said, maybe our bad. So not our bad of the whole ordinance, but that they recognize they have explicitly recognized they didn't go about it the right way. And so we're kind of moving from there. I think that the election should be interesting. I don't expect that he has much of a chance. Jerry Clifton isn't that bad, I'll say. He's definitely someone who isn't afraid, I think, to have his own opinions and his own mind in terms of, and so I think it'll be interesting maybe to have further conversations with him. We've certainly met with him before. We've spoke to him on issues. He has kind of a traditional mindset on things, but at the same time, I think we'll be in a better situation in terms of, I don't think he is in the same way that Polly Sears. I like Polly Sears a lot. She's been great with me, and she's been great about a lot of things, but she also has a certain mindset. He has a different mindset. So we'll just be dealing with different issues, different situations. Maybe if Rick could win, and I think that'd be interesting too. I'm not trying to count him out, but I do think that Drake Clifton hasn't actually been a council member for 19 years. There's like a break. He took some time off and then came back. But that's all I have. And I am gonna head out because I'm going to a Newark partnership meeting tonight, which I will also be leaving. But
Okay, thanks. Oh,
No, I was just gonna say, if there's any questions.
So, faculty senate update. Nick wasn't there, but I was there. Not really much going on. We kind of talked about the elections for the new graduate council that would essentially govern the graduate college, which was established last month. Provost Morgan said that those would hopefully be underway by spring break. There's going to be a search next academic year for a new dean of the College of Professional Studies, then also for the dean of the new graduate college. And the College of Arts and Sciences kind of expressed some concerns about how they're going to apportion their members for the graduate college because they have less delegates than they do departments. So that's going to be challenging. And interim Dean Flesko said to Provost Morgan, just kind of allow us some patience and more time to figure this out because they want to get it right. But other than that, nothing really exciting or anything super pertaining to students. Nick, do you want to talk about our meeting with Adam Canley?
So, other than that, obviously we had the open hearing on grade forgiveness as well as GPA raising. I know some of you were there. We did have some students there as well. We're waiting to get some of that feedback, and I'll update you guys when that moves forward in committee. As of right now, we didn't speak any further on that this week. Like Kevin did allude to and mentioned a little bit earlier, we did have a meeting with Adam Canley, who is the Dean of Students. It was Kevin, Corinne, myself, and John, and we spoke about that Student Death Notification Act that was going to basically make it more resources for the professors, for students, as well as more notification to the student body. Obviously, we've already started to see that roll out a little bit today, where Kevin, Corinne, and I actually got an email from Adam prior to the UDEL release, which allowed us time to kind of put something together on our own social media websites tonight. That's one of the things we requested. Adam is actually meeting to see if some of the other things we requested can be possible, such as a joint letter from Kevin as well as President Sanas that will go out to all students following the death of a student, which would then have a link to the UDEL article. So it's not just something you have to go find or something you have to subscribe to, or rather it would be something that all students would be notified about. So that is one thing that we're really looking forward to, as well as a little bit more pressure on allowing professors to have resources available to them for their students in the classes where the student passed away. So that's something we're working forward to as well. Hopefully in the future, that'll actually be implemented. And we're actually going to be having a joint meeting or a joint discussion between myself and Adam at the Faculty Senate in May, where we're going to basically present any changes that we made and any of these new policies to the faculty members, encouraging them to get involved. So we think it's going to be great. While we are glad that John's bill was able to be implemented to some extent, we look forward to working with Adam as well as the entire Harvard student life in the future. Are there any questions about that? All right, cool.
Okay, so now we just have a few resolutions up for vote. Tonight, you guys should have been in the rules by now. The first one is just an appointment of our new senator, Michael
Can you do that one real quick? The petition for 1905 is not this 1905, it's the town's 1905. Screw it up. It's also 1905.
Well, I didn't know that to happen.
That's like one semester. Okay, you want to say it?
Alright, so it's typically the same as always. So whereas as specified in the Constitution and bylaws, the president has the right to appoint any full-time undergraduate student with the approval of the legislature, to a vacant position, and whereas the appointment of qualified individuals to vacant seats will allow the organization to better carry out organizational responsibilities throughout the year. Therefore, be it resolved that Michael Canals is appointed as Student Affairs Senator.
Okay. All those in favor of this resolution, please raise your placard. All opposed? Abstaining? Thank you, the speaker, the motion is passed. All right, Michael, back.
No, I'm kidding.
For those of you that that don't know Michael, he was a senator last year. He's great. You should get to know him. Okay, so then we just have a resolution just kind of pertaining to statement we released about our ordinance. We kind of thought that we should get like unanimous consent that everyone in SGA approves of it, because we don't want to release statements that aren't representative of our organization or the student body. So
Yeah.
Joanna, if you want to read that one too.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, just make a motion to discuss after. So whereas, as specified in the Constitution, it is the duty of the Student Government Association to enhance student experience by actively advocating on behalf of students' rights. And whereas the recent passage of New York City Council's Unruly Social Gathering Ordinance 1905 has caused an outsized negative response among the student body. And whereas the Student Government Association has published 2 public statements on March 12th and March 15th, 2019, addressing student concerns with respect to potential over-policy within the community. And whereas recent concerns in regard to our previously mentioned statements have been levied in the time that has passed since their publication, therefore be it resolved, the members of the Student Government Association reaffirm the positions aired in its public statements, and be it further resolved that further actions be taken to help resolve these conflicts between both students and members of the greater community and build better relationships.
Okay, so do we have a motion to discuss either this resolution or the statement or ordinance?
Let's discuss. What is the further actions be taken to help resolve these conflicts? Is that related to future things or future things you're going to do specific to this ordinance?
So we've been discussing with IFC and the student, with Jose, VP of Student Life, about trying to possibly hold an open forum with town councilmen and students. It's just it's currently in the process because it's all kind of dependent on getting councilmen there. Initially, we're kind of thinking about involving Newark PD at the same time, but it's kind of a conflict because the ordinance that passed wasn't 100% of what Newark PD was really looking for, but that's kind of the realm of where we're looking.
What do we hope to gain from an open hearing and a forum, considering it's already passed? Is there any future actions we are going to take, possibly put it on hold, or to try to challenge the resolution? Is that in our realm of possibilities?
As far as legal challenges, we're not going forward with that as of right now. We did have one attorney reach out to us.
Yeah.
But
I think, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think IFC reached out to like APLU, but I don't know if that's gonna, come to anything.
we
I
have,
feel like
we've kind of bumped that ahead to kind of we forward that along to IFC. Sorry.
I feel like in terms of the legislation, it's just important to take further action so that it gives us room as student government to support any further actions regarding our statements. In our second statement, we talked about the open forum and different actions with IFC. So it's kind of just like reaffirming the fact that future things are going to be done, and we're kind of represent the student body as a whole. Because there were some backlash on our statements that they came only from few students, but we wanted it kind of to represent the student body, and we want to make sure that everyone, we were all elected here, so we want to kind of show that representation.
And sorry. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, specifically to answer your question, I think as Brandon was alluding to, we most likely won't be able to repeal it. But kind of getting the conversation going with town councilmen around why students were so angry and how, like, what specifics were the overreach, and just trying to get that conversation moving forward, because we do have the Newark partnership, but there still are a lot of animosities around Delaware buying up the land for Star Campus, and that's kind of been something that's stuck around for a while. So I think it's kind of partially around the ordinance, but also partially to just try and get a bit more conversation going between students and council.
I know personally for me, like most upsetting part of the ordinance was that it was done kind of over winter break when students aren't really here, and there was extensive steps to reach out to developers and landlords, but not necessarily students. Even after Megan put herself out there, made herself available. So I think just moving forward, like getting those conversations started and but having a seat at the table, you know, being on the board for the Newark partnership is really huge for us. So I think maybe in the future.
I just, this is the statements that we released, the SGA released. I thought that's the most I've ever seen students not in SGA involved with SGA. Like I saw so many people repost it, and I just think it was a really positive thing to get our name out there. It was very, very important. I think a lot of people appreciated our statement.
I think the timeliness contributed to that. If we were to wait till Senate and release it after tonight, say tomorrow, it would have been almost no impact. So as to set a precedent, I think going forward, I would be 100%, behind the executive cabinet being able to decide on statements without having to confer with the entire body. I don't know if everyone else agrees with me on that. I don't know if that's something we have to formalize in the resolution, but I think going forward, all statements can come from the executive cabinet without necessarily having to have our permission.
Actually, just to kind of say something to what you said, I don't know how much I agree that the executive cabinet should not have to consult us at all when they release statements, because I don't think 5 or 6 people can be indicative of an entire student body. I just think that, again, I've always agreed with everything you guys have done, so it's never been a problem for me. But if you make something like that, you set a precedent, and there's a new executive cabinet every single year, and so things change, views get polarized, and I just think that that would be dangerous. Because this year I didn't have a problem, but I'll be here next year, they won't, and I don't know what the time next year will be. I just like that there's some interaction.
Yeah, and definitely I think that's why we like to put it out into the Google Doc, the second statement. I think that was beneficial. The first thing we had to release kind of before the weekend, for St. Patrick's Day weekend and everything like that. But definitely in the future, if we were to release statements, we'd probably go through the same thing with the Google Docs so that everyone can open and edit and kind of close the edits at a certain time.
And that's also the point of this resolution, is just to affirm that you guys are behind the statement. And if you have any issues.
And I do know. Can't remember who did, but I know Brennan and another PR senator started and I think the only other instance where last year's cabinet did it was when we had a faculty member speak out about how Otto Warmbier, who was the American who was tortured near to death by North Korean regime, and then shortly after died, the professor made a comment saying, "Oh, rich and entitled white kid deserved it." That was the only real time that we kind of pulled that lever to say, "Whoa there, this is ridiculous, and we cannot support any human being, let alone a UD faculty member."
That being said, do we have a motion to vote? Second. All those in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand. All opposed? Abstaining? And I'm the speaker, this motion is passed. All right.
Can I pause for a second? I feel like my joke cut into Michael's clap, so I just want to give him a full applause. I didn't want to chip him, but
No, that's fine. So does anyone have any questions? We don't really have any important announcements for you guys. Yeah, Mark.
External is working on a little video project to interview a few of you guys about your SGA experience and your specific roles. So if anybody's interested, you can give me your email after the meeting. You can go from there.
And also, me and Brennan found out last night that that'll be aired on Student Television Network.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in working with the Graduate Student Association, which is SGA for the grad college year, they're looking for people who are interested in tackling sustainability issues or just green issues. So just see me after Senate. You want to be in contact with them.
Yeah, and just a reminder, everyone in Nick's branch is supposed to be working on legislation consistently and just kind of providing that they're doing something and not just kind of coming to meetings. So if you're not working on something and that sounds interesting to you, definitely take advantage. Grad student government is great. They do some pretty important things around here too. SGA, this is kind of exciting. So actually it's really exciting. SGA is establishing a career clothing closet. I don't know if I've brought this up at a meeting before, but when we went on the student bus tours, we saw a lot of other universities that had it. And basically it's just a space on campus with a bunch of like suits, like blouses, like shoes, ties, just professional attire that students can go and just kind of shop in for free. And so we thought that was really cool and wanted to bring that here on campus. And with the help of Alex and Tony, we found a room in Perkins. So we are going to begin a clothing donation drive in the next coming weeks. So if you have any old, like, I don't know, stuff you would wear to Senate that you just want to get rid of, there will be a box in the SGA office. So please bring your stuff. Appreciate it. And it's like super exciting and hopefully it's successful for the next few years. And other than that, any questions? Okay. No? Oh yeah, so elections. You guys all got Claudia's email, hopefully, about the election dates coming up. So election interest meetings will be the week of the 25th. I believe it's that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then signups are the following week or the week after spring break. And the rules meeting will be that Friday. All the dates are on our website. If you're an underclassman or if you want to accept a senior, we definitely encourage you guys to think about it. Just a reminder, anyone running for cabinet must meet with the cabinet member whose position you're interested in. So it's definitely a smart idea to do that early so that you're not trying to fit them at the last minute. Other than that, that's all we have. So in the opinion of the speaker, this meeting is adjourned. Sorry.